Welcome everybody to this panel on school business partnerships. I am your moderator, Jeff Weld. I'm the executive director of the Governor's STEM Advisory Council. And as background goes, we're one of several organizations across the state of Iowa that are working to drive school business partnerships as a model for the future of education. And there's two main reasons for that, as you'll hear from our panelists shortly. One is that school business partnerships create meaning and relevance for students. What's learned in the classroom has applications to the community and the world that surrounds them. And reason number two is that it's an opportunity to promote careers to future employees of great Iowa employers in the community and within the state. So talk about a win-win, school business partnerships. I'm very pleased to welcome 5 Iowa Visionaries who are each blazing trails in school business partnerships in their own ways. And I'm going to invite each of you to introduce yourself, name and organizational affiliation before we get into the weeds with how you operate school business partnerships, starting with Laurie, please.
Thank you, Jeff, and good afternoon, everyone. It's so great to see so many friendly names and faces on the screen. I'm Laurie Worden. I'm Director of Workplace Learning Connection. We're a department of Kirkwood Community College, and we are the regional intermediary here in East Central Iowa, serving Cedar, Benton, Jones, Lynn, Iowa, Johnson, and Washington counties, and also a very proud and founding member of the Iowa Intermediary Network.
Thank you, Laurie. Mike?
Yes, sir. Mike Kuennen with Iowa Big North, and I think we're going on our 6th year. And this year we're partnering with Turkey Valley. So I would like to think that we're really servicing and being of service to Northeast Iowa and doing what we can to promote local opportunities.
Super, thank you. Marc.
I'm Marc Benedict. I'm with the No Boundaries program. I'm also a master teacher and instructional coach for both Grettinger-Terrell and Ruthven-Ayrshire districts. I fortunately got to pick up a side gig as assistant coordinator with the Iowa STEM Teacher Externship Program this summer. And I'm kind of the school liaison / vice president of the Grettinger Business Club. This is our 2nd year in this learning model. And I'm a shout out to Carrie Miller, who's one of our Okoboji No Boundaries people. I see her in the room. And again, I hope we're representing Northwest Iowa in the same way that Mike is doing Northeast Iowa.
Thank you, Marc. Michelle, please.
Hi, I'm Michelle Hill. I'm the director for the Waukee Aspiring Professional Experience, or APEX program here in Central Iowa. And we partner with 6 surrounding school districts here in the community on work-based learning.
Thank you, Michelle. And Jill.
Jill James, nice to be here. I am Boone Community School District's District Director of Innovative Learning, and up until just a few months ago, helped to coordinate our Boone Edge program. We since, I'll talk about a little later, but we have since officially added a new coordinator just for our Boone Edge program due to some of the growth and the good things that we've seen over the last 4 years. So Jill James with Boone Schools and Boone Edge.
Wonderful. You are an all-star cast. So I've taken the liberty on behalf of our audience to craft 4 questions I'm going to ask these folks to walk us through. And they really take a journey through forming the school business partnerships that these folks are operating. And then we move into the COVID pandemic and how school business partnerships may have been impacted and continue to be impacted by the pandemic. And then we'll turn our attention to a future, a bright future where there is no pandemic. And these leaders will be continuing to build on the work that they've established. And we'll look from there to a new normal, decades out, where school business partnerships may go in the deep future. If listeners, viewers get questions along the way, don't hesitate to use the chat option, and we'll try to monitor your questions and fit them in as appropriate. So without further delay, let me begin with my questions. I'm going to go reverse order of introductions. So beginning with Jill, please provide us with a brief overview of your school business partnership model, as in who's involved, students, faculty, community, How long have you been at it? And what are the goals?
Our Boone Edge program is in its 4th year, and I'm going to correct myself. We're working very hard to say Edge is for all, so it's not a program, but our Boone Edge. We are in our 4th year, and most of our work-based learning focuses on students that are in grades 10 through 12. However, we really see our model as needing to be a PK-12 model and helping to expose younger students to career awareness, career exploration, so that those really in-depth work-based learning experiences can happen and have more meaning to them in grades 10, 11, 12. Most of our students are in grades 11 and 12, though there are some students who get involved earlier. And we really consider our model pretty comprehensive in that we think all of our students need that edge. We have a set of 6 core skills that a team kind of outlined to say these are what every student that leaves us should have to be successful in whatever walk of life they're headed off to. And so our model encompasses some work-based learning for students with disabilities that are working on just the basics of those core skills, and then progresses with opportunities for more career exploration, job shadows, small internships, apprenticeship, pre-apprenticeship, and some project-based learning. So it's not necessarily a linear model. We really look at it as a continuum of support and how we match the student with their current level with those core skills to their interests and passions and what's a right fit for them. So what might start as doing some career awareness with our IJAG program might turn into a pre-apprenticeship and then an internship as a student progresses in kind of narrowing down what it is that they really want to focus on. So we have business partners from different trade organizations. We have Fairway Corporate is in Boone, and so they're a good support of us, but we also have a number of small business and community organizations that work with us in Boone and Story County and around Central Iowa.
Thank you, Jill. Let's go from Boone southward to Waukee. Michelle, describe the model, who's involved, what are the goals, how long you been at it?
Sure. So Apex has been around, this is our 7th year, and we are a segment of kind of that continuum that Jill mentioned within our district of work-based learning opportunities from PK-12 plus. But we are a junior and senior year opportunity for students. They can enroll in a variety of courses. We have an advisory board that helps us determine the highest need in our metro area, and it's very dynamic. Curriculum teams meet annually. Actually, our advisory board meets tomorrow to kind of take a look at the outlook of what's coming at us here in the future. And so in those 5 economic sectors or 14 classes, students can enroll. And then through that, they learn not only the technical skills and earn those high school and college credits, but they develop a portfolio of experience because everything they do is authentic projects for business. So we really want to focus on that servant leadership, quality, their professional skills, things like that outside of the technical skills that they learn. But that also is kind of what sets those students apart at the end of the program. You know, they have the confidence, the collaboration skills, the communication skills, developing new and different skills all the time. You know, their ability to conduct a meeting remotely via Zoom is now a hot topic for us. So just kind of a little ideas about how things have changed looking at COVID. But yeah, so we are open to every single student. Anybody can enroll. And so we've gone from 100 students in our first year and 4 teachers to over 600 students in the program this year. So thousands of students that have gone through, and it's been really fun to track our students that have graduated and are now alumni of the program and the fields that they've ended up in. We do an annual report kind of looking at our equity numbers and fields that students end up in. And I'm happy to say that about 75% of the students that have come through the program have ended up in a STEM field that we were hoping that they would end up in that's high need. But a lot are still here in the community or within the state. And so that's really exciting too, to kind of track that longitudinally and just help them even beyond graduation. So helping them, you know, find jobs back in the community or get get those network connections. So that's a little snippet of our program. Like I mentioned, we not only partner with Waukee as a primary school district, but 6 other school districts too. So the consortium model is kind of becoming Iowa Big North, another great example coming up. So it's really helpful that way. It makes things very easy for our business partners that way.
Absolutely. And you said how many years?
This is year 7.
Year 7. That makes you kind of the granddaddy model in STEM best years.
Yeah,
You're ancient and
we're old school.
you're veterans. Now let's go to a comparatively newcomer to the landscape up in Terrell Gredinger. Marc Benedict, please.
Yep. So it was kind of interesting that we went in this order. I was hoping Mike would go first because our model is based very heavily on the Iowa Big North model. So we are composed of 4 districts, Gredinger, Terrell, Ruthven-Ayrshire, Spencer, and Okoboji, all of which, well, Gredinger, Terrell, Ruthven-Ayrshire are not a half hour apart, but the rest are a half hour apart. Each district provides its own faculty. So my district provides me, Spencer provides 1 full-time and a couple of part-time, and Okoboji between their middle school and high school provide 3, 2 at the middle school, 1 at the high school. In GTRA and Spencer, it's offered only to 11th and 12th. In Okoboji, it's not only offered to 11th and 12th, but they have an 8th grade version of the program run at their middle school. Basically, we partner with local businesses and community groups who pitch those problems that were just below the line for this year, right? The ones that they weren't going to get to, but are legit problems. And they pitch them to the kids. Kids pick the couple they want to work on, and then they work on a solution to those problems. Our focus is on the universal constructs, which for your non-education people in the audience, that's those soft skills we talk about, and that Michelle alluded to some of them, like communication, collaboration, problem solving, productivity, flexibility, all those kinds of things. They can get some core credits in addition, so English credits and some science credits and computer science and some other things, but all through working through their, authentic learning problem. So.
Thank you, Marc. Let's go a couple hundred miles eastward from you to a consortium that began in Charles City, right, Mike?
Yes, sir. It's kind of nice to follow Marc because a lot of the things that he talked about, he's already taken care of for me. So again, Mike Kuennen with Iowa Big North. In our heyday, we had 6 schools that were a part of our consortium. And so talking about some of the changes, we're down to 2 schools this year. Just having conversation that of what that looks like with Leslie at Turkey Valley is looking forward to the year, knowing that it is going to be fluid and dynamic, kind of like you spoke to, Jeff. I enjoy being a part of this panel. I think about Michelle and Marc, and we wouldn't be here had it not been for the STEM Best grant. And so think about Dr. Weld. It's been, like I said, I think we're going on our 6th year, and what a journey it's been, and been to Waukee. And so hopefully this goes for everyone on the panel, that if you're in the audience and you're curious how to get started, Michelle was so helpful to us. Iowa Big is instrumental in where we're at, and I'm sure with No Boundaries would agree. And so take the opportunities, fill out the grants, or visit with folks. But our community partners will tell you how we are changing education. And not only are we changing it, we're changing it for the better. And we're home growing our talent. And in rural Iowa, that's our goal. So, the experiences our kids have, what I really envy about what Apex has been able to do, the data that they're gathering, we need to get to that level. We're not there yet, but that's what we're striving to do. So it's not just stories that we're talking about, that we can really have some hardcore facts for you. And then I also want to reach out and say thank you to NICC because we've been able to grow from elective to core, and now we're offering college credit for public speaking, which I'm sure every single one of the programs on the panel would say what a natural fit that is for what our students are doing with our community partners. And they took a chance. Dr. Wee and Dr. Mim-Harold, Dr. Wendy Mim-Harold took a chance with us, and that's gone extremely well. So again, thanks for having me, and looking forward to today.
Great. Can't wait to hear more details. And last, in terms of introduction, as far as your school business partnership program and who's involved and what are your goals, it's Laurie Worden in Lynn County.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. Well, as I was listening to our other panelists and just thinking about just the innovation that's occurred over the last 10 years, workplace really, we're the old lady on the block. We've been doing this work for a long time. In fact, I think we might be one of the only standing startups that came out of the Clinton administration.
Wow.
So we had our beginnings in some school to work funding in 1998. So Workplace Learning Connection started out as a separate 501(c) from 98 to about 2011. And we were under some organization called the Woods Quality Center. And during that time, we were really charged to grow and expand the footprint of our services when it comes to being a high quality work-based learning intermediary. And there's four main things that a work-based learning intermediary does, and it's something that we all do in this work as intermediaries. We convene the right parties to the table. We make appropriate and quality connections around work-based learning, the work-based learning continuum. We measure what we do, and then we wouldn't be any good if we couldn't come back the next year and do it again, so we sustain that work. And around that whole sustainability piece, this work absolutely could not be done without what I'm proud to say is one of the most dynamic and vibrant group of professional intermediaries, and that's our team. So a little bit about the structure of Workplace Learning Connection. We're a 14-member team of professional intermediaries serving various aspects of the work-based learning process. We have individuals that are business liaisons working directly with the business community, which is a significant number of individuals in our region. We have 2,100 active businesses and over 4,000 active business partners in our region. We have school liaisons that work as kind of the order takers or program developers with our school districts. We have rural liaisons that serve both those capacities of working with businesses and working with schools. We have specialists called the I-Team that work to support internship coordination and placement. We have an event coordinator and then a marketing and PR specialist, as well as a great administrative support person. And then my role is I don't know, my team would probably laugh if I called myself a chief listener, but I listen to a lot of good ideas and hopefully I find resources and ability to move some of those things forward. So we are contracted work-based learning intermediary service providers to 94 school districts in our region, serving grades 6 through 12. So as a group, that number's about 35,000 students, and in a normal year, we're serving just over 28,000 work-based learning experiences. And that includes a variety of career events. In FY22, we'll start to serve grade 5 students. We're excited about that. But typically, job shadows, internships, worksite tours, career speakers, educator events, and all in a goal to connect today's kids to tomorrow's careers. And that is absolutely in line with everything that our leadership is doing at the state level around Future Ready Iowa, trying to increase awareness, have quality exploration for students so that they can be better informed, better prepared, and better aligned to where opportunities are in our economy. Iowa's a great place to live, a great place to raise a family, and we've got to expose young people and connect them and inform them and develop mentor relationships for them through their middle school and high school experiences so they make that decision to stay. And we have a significant number of them after going through high quality work-based learning experiences that are making that decision, telling us that they want to live and work in Iowa and that they're better informed and better prepared to do that and know what's going on in their own backyard. So yeah, we've been at it for a while and we've done things in a much different way. So I'll throw it back to you, Jeff to.
Thank you. Perfect segue. As you can imagine, we have all become great fans of the work that you're all doing. Some in just a few years, some have a few more under their belts, but our STEM Council are crazy about the work that you're doing. And then, of course, we all know that on March 12 or thereabouts, our lives flipped upside down, our professional existence, if not our personal existence. And I hope this will be an interesting question for those who are watching. Share with us the immediate impacts that were felt. So we're going to talk short term. Think back, March to June, maybe. You're at the tail end of an academic year and there's a mad scramble going on. And just take us through that period of time and how you modulated or mitigated to minimize the negative impacts of a descending pandemic at that time on the school business partnerships you were nurturing and cultivating at that time. We're going to go back through the order. Laurie first, please.
Sure. Well, obviously, it was a time of some great uncertainty. So basically, our first task, once we got home and got the new monitor set up, obviously, we had to communicate to hundreds and hundreds of people about things that were going to be canceled. Because we had the directive, from our great leadership at Kirkwood that number one priority is student safety and staff safety. So that was pretty clear. So we were in this uncomfortable hold mode, which is an absolute living hell for someone who has Activator in her top 5. So I think we had to lean back to, okay, safety first in everything that we do. We're going to have great empathy for everyone involved. We're going to give everybody a lot of grace. People are kind of freaking out here. So having a lot of compassion and gratitude for our partners, and that helped drive some of the early things that we decided to do. And then we needed as a team to get tactical so we could get hopeful. And that was a really cool process. And I think it kept us healthily distracted during that time and really focused on some positive things. So early on, we really had to assess the landscape, observe what's going on, listen to our educators and counselors and business partners, and do check-ins with them with no ask, just how are you? Really working on that relationship, and our business liaisons and school liaisons and IT members, the whole team did a great job around that. But then we got going with some tactical innovations, really based in some classic strategic doing, if you're familiar with that out of Purdue, some of that methodology. What could we do? What should we do? What will we do? And really dive into the assets and the collaborations that we have both in our region and as a state, and into our own strengths as a team. And in doing that, it really helped to prioritize some of our approach. So we knew that in addition to being focused on what is needed now, thinking about that period of March through June, we also had to look at that through the context of being visible, valuable, and long-term viable, because we're in a sea of online resources that a district could decide to just plug in. And we needed to set ourselves apart from those other kind of easy solutions maybe that an individual district could pursue. We had to prove our value and really show the value of those local connections and having a collaborative, responsive, and adaptable approach. So the first thing we did, we thought about those students that were losing out on their experiences. And we did some concierge communications to those individual high school students, providing them with curated resources related to the experience that they were missing out on. We also did shout outs on Facebook to all of our seniors and complimented them on internships that they didn't get to finish. And that proved to be very valuable to them and their parents and their educators. We had to flip an entire financial literacy fair that served 5,300 regional 8th graders. That was a culmination of some 8th grade planning that they do, and flip that to a virtual tool that not only worked well here for our counselors and educators, but it worked great for our partners across the state that decided to share that tool. We started work on a virtual student presentation because we thought we're probably not going to be able to go into schools in August. and started to develop concepts around virtual office hours so we could be of assistance to students. During that time, we developed the virtual mock interview model, and we were able to pilot that with an apprenticeship program at one of our area high schools so they could do their culminating experience or capstone experience utilizing that mock interview format. And lastly, we had planned a May tour, a thank you tour in all 7 counties. So we couldn't do that. So we pulled together with some great partners at Kirkwood and our great partnership within our work team and did individual thank you videos for each of our counties focused on our business partners. And we sent that out through economic development, through chamber, through our channels of communication. And that proved to be just a nice way to end the year for them. And then also let them know that we really do value everything that you've done for us. We couldn't do this work without you. And we want to innovate with you moving forward. So those were just some of the things we stayed busy with during that time period.
Just a few. Quite a pivot. I can't wait to tease the rest of the story out of you each in terms of how these sagas end. But Mike, how did the saga begin, March to June at Big North, and how did you guys react in the moment to keep the ball moving down the field?
Well, being very fortunate, 3 main tenets of Iowa Big when we started were pursue your passion, that of service to others, and interdisciplinary. And so growth mindset is something that we've been talking about from day one. And to be honest, I would say the pandemic affected our students in Iowa Big North less than they did other students. Michelle alluded to it earlier. She said, our students were Zoom savvy already because of our consortium of schools that were typically meeting at least once a week, if not twice via Zoom. So when we left school on Friday, we fully anticipated being back on Monday. We weren't. And so, being teenagers, we had concern, but we talked about, hey, this is what we're made for. And this is why we talk about growth mindset. We turned it into it being a negative to what opportunities are available to us. And so what I'll say is, obviously the face-to-face meeting stopped. But I can tell you our engagement from our students from Iowa Big North in comparison to the traditional setting, it hands down that we had students contacting the facilitators and saying, okay, here's what we're doing next. We moved into a new co-working space this fall. Students took care of that during the pandemic. And so that's the main one that I could speak to. And had it not been for growth mindset, maybe we would have struggled. Now, I'm not saying we didn't have challenges, but they rose to the opportunity.
Love that spirit. Thank you. How about you, Marc? How did it all go down up there in Terrell?
So, yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? We were kind of uniquely set, I think, to deal with some of the realities of COVID because the distance between our towns right now had already necessitated that a vast majority of our work was being done virtually to begin with. Like maybe once a month the kids met in face-to-face with their teams, more just for the experience of it, right? That's a half-hour travel time each direction. Same with our business partners at the high school level. And so we did see some drop off, I suppose, like everybody did, because our districts all went to the optional learning model, and some high school kids decided it was time to go to work or some other things while they had the opportunity. On the flip side, our middle school team, they rocked it out. They finished one of their projects completely virtually at the end of the year, via COVID with one of our partners at Safeco. On the other end, some partners had their own issue. They were too busy scrambling to deal with what they had to deal with and didn't feel at that point they had time to deal with the kids either. So, it was a mixed bag for us, really. But it's nice, like I said, that we were already positioned to do so much virtually because it continues to service well now, because some of our schools are not able to have visitors in yet and those kind of things. So.
Right. All right, you're foreshadowing where we're going to go next, which is what happened next. But before we do, Michelle, that was quite a curveball thrown at Apex in March. How did you guys react?
Yeah, so I would probably echo what everyone has said so far, that the type of student that we train and all of the onboarding of the professional skills, talking about adaptability and growth mindset and things like that, definitely positioned us to be at a place where we were ready to roll with it anyway. I think our district is such a large district. They really wanted to go slow to go fast, trying to figure out how we were going to transition online, how we were going to support everybody and stay within, all the guidelines that go with, all the students that we support. But we were so used to personalizing everything for every student and for every business partner. I'm sure every instructor that has ever taught in this, that's on this call and across the state, knows they're ready to roll with just about anything. And so it was almost like I had this team of crazy horses ready to go, and I was holding on the reins like, hey, okay, wait a minute, we gotta, double check a few things. So they really, we had already had lots of things online. We use lots of resources like Trello and all the different like Google Classroom and things like that. And everybody in Apex already had a laptop one-to-one, even though our district wasn't. But then we also had to think about, we had DMAC classes that were continuing, where the high school was still trying to figure out if we were going to be voluntary or required. And so we kind of moved ahead before the high school officially made some decisions. And we worked with our DMAC partners and just said, what do we need to look at as far as like core competencies? What do we need to make sure that we can, adapt a little bit to meet all of that? But at the same time, we have such great relationships with our business partners. And although we can work remotely and have for a lot of the project work, we really like to be in person a lot and make those face-to-face connections. And just knowing that everybody was kind of in this, a little bit of a panic, I would say, that March, April, May. So we just did a lot of social, emotional check-ins with our students, our staff, and our business partners, just really saying what's going to work for you. There were a lot, I would say the majority of our students wanted to continue projects virtually. Some of the business partners said, maybe it's not a good time. So, we had to reach out to hundreds and hundreds of business partners that we were working with just to say, does this make sense right now? If not, that's fine. If so, how can we adapt it? And then in the spring is always when we're doing all of our celebrations. And Laurie kind of mentioned that too, thinking about recognizing our business partners and celebrating our seniors and things like that. So we were planning some events to switch to online. I know I'll give a shout out to Cedar Falls too. They put together an entire career fair and invited us to join and share that with the world. So I think everybody was kind of shifting their focus and still trying to be innovative, but at the same time try to take care of each other and just do the best we can. And then those teachers, that crazy set of horses I've got running around, they're like, okay, this is okay for spring, but what about fall? What are we thinking about for fall? And so I know right now, just kind of across our district and just talking with other teachers that we have kind of as a PLC across the state, everybody's really tired. Right now it's a lot, but I try to remind them, like, you usually at least take a few days off in the summer, get a nice vacation with your family. Nobody really did that this summer. Everybody was shifting gears, thinking of new ideas. Things were changing constantly, and it was just a lot to keep up with. And so we're really trying to, I guess that's kind of getting into the future, but just really trying to make sure that we're supporting each other and taking a breath once in a while and just trying to have that work-life balance, not only for us, but for our students and for our business partners too. So yeah, that was our spring. I think everybody really wanted to work as much as possible. And it did really well in some instances. In other instances, we had to let a few things go, and that's not our normal. So.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, agility and pivoting can be tiring. Burns a lot of calories.
Mhm.
Okay, Jill, the pandemic put us all on edge. How did Boone Edge deal with it?
Nice play on words there with edge. Well, of course, we feel like we have an edge, so, and our kids have an edge, so we were all ready to go there. I think Michelle mentioned that the work-based learning work is so personalized for the student, for the business partner. I think everybody here on the panel would agree that, it's about finding that right fit and connecting the right student with the right project or the right business partner and opportunity. So the response again was very personalized. There were things like presentations, those capstone presentations that we were preparing for, and some advanced experiences that we weren't going to be able to pull in that panel of experts. So how could we do that virtually? How could we still give those students an experience? We also had some of those DMAT courses that needed to keep going, like Michelle mentioned. And so making sure we navigated who needed to complete what to make sure that the end goals were still accomplished for the students, and keeping those end goals as a priority. Some of our work-based learning opportunities, like our apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programs, include a learning component that utilizes online learning always. So those were able to continue, even though some of those lab experiences that are the real hands-on had to be altered. And we weren't able to send students out for some labs that weren't happening when a vet clinic was closed. We weren't able to go out there anymore, but we could still continue that online instruction so that the students could continue moving forward, and they were familiar with that. And they were hungry for that. They didn't want to give up and end that semester of their pre-apprenticeship work, because they were dedicated to that. So already leveraging online instruction, I think, was a bonus for us, because it just meant business as usual. And we really use that because our program is so personalized, and because Boone isn't that big. We only have around 2,000 kids district wide. And so, I can't have a whole class full of 30 working on a plumbing apprenticeship or pre-apprenticeship, but I can have 2 or 3. And so we always utilize online instruction, and we were able to really leverage that in the spring. I think we really focused in on what are the learning goals. I mean, it's those 6 core skills that we hone in on: employability and professionalism and communication and collaboration. So those are still the goals, even if the project, the partnership, the lab is going to change. And how do we continue to, have that be our end goal? For some, that meant we're pivoting and really putting that focus on using those core skills to finish our core classes, and what support some students need, or all students need, to be able to do that. So those, I think Michelle also mentioned that SEL check-in is really important, and that at this point, that project might not be what you're applying those skills to. Now let's apply it to finishing your algebra class, or whatever it is that you're working on. And that became really important to us, to just kind of hone in on what's most important, and how do we continue to build that skill set in our kids, because that's always our end goal. We always say that the kids may explore a career and totally pivot, and as long as they have those core skills, that's what they'll take on to the next experience. Well, what better way to do that than during a pandemic, and to see how it really plays out? So I think that's what we try to keep our focus on. Then I think I also just have to speak a little bit to the need for recruitment and planning ahead. Spring is a time not just to celebrate where we are, but also it's when we were literally right in the mix of registering students for the fall semester, and recruiting students. And we do like to think of our program as a continuum of success. And so finding that right fit, that personalized fit for each student, and some of the things we had intended to do and be able to do with an extra quarter of school, now we were trying to figure out how to do virtually. And so a lot of individualized calls, a lot of just more personalized approach to that counseling and that registration process, because we wanted to make sure that we were prepared for success in the fall, and we knew we needed to start that in the spring.
Wow, I'm sure our viewers will agree with me that you're revealing a certain character. There's a phrase that character is only truly revealed by a crisis. And I know everybody on this webinar has people in your lives and yourselves whose true character revealed itself only because of this pandemic. The leadership that rises and makes the best of a dismal situation has been a thing to behold. And certainly for you 5, that character, that leadership strength has been revealed beautifully. So let's fast forward. Here we are in the middle of the fall semester, 7 months down the line, probably the longest 7 months of our lives. And you've adapted, and you've touched a little bit on the adaptation, but compliments to you all for boxing yourselves into that that crisis mode, that pivot, and that agile period. But talk to us now about what adaptations you've put in place at your model that that allow you to maintain and maybe even expand and thrive. Who would have thought of that in this fall that'll go down in history? Jill, take us to the present, and how are you guys thriving?
Well, I think that several panelists mentioned that, your students were comfortable with Zoom or video conferencing. I think it's been a bonus that many of our partners now are much more comfortable with virtual and having virtual video conferences. And I think that's opened up a lot of opportunities for our students that we didn't necessarily have before. In fact, I think we've been able to tap into some expertise that maybe wouldn't have been comfortable or wouldn't have, thought they could make the time to do a 1-hour call with some students, but now they're seeing that it's kind of just the way I can work in for an hour right here. And whether it's because they're working from home and that travel time is taken out, or they're just more comfortable with the technology, we've actually seen some expansion and partnerships, and again, just willingness of people to say, I'll jump on a call with your kids, no problem, anytime. That maybe was a hurdle before. Especially across a wide variety of industries. So I think that that's definitely an adaptation that we will continue to capitalize on, because a whole lot of other people made this shift with us during that pandemic. I also think that we have some new business partners that maybe we weren't necessarily seeing a need for before, or we're hearing some different needs in our community. And so when we're struggling to find a business partner in our community in that particular area, we're also realizing that if there isn't a partner there must be a need there, because we're not able to find that. And so that's maybe helping us to determine some other industries that we may need to, reach a little further to partner with, but also some community needs that we have, and partnering with our Chamber of Commerce and local economic development to say, what are those needs that we're seeing now that maybe weren't uncovered until this has happened, and can our students help to fill those needs? And I think we're seeing more projects come in and some more partner willingness, because it's a time where people realize that we kind of do have to come together and do things differently. And so some new things are coming to light that I think will expand our edge in the future too.
Wow, that's very interesting. Michelle, Jill makes it sound almost as if Corona did them a favor. How's the adaptation process at Waukee, and how are you better? How have you adapted?
Sure. I definitely think there's some positives, quite a few actually. I'll kind of piggyback on what Jill said. The efficiencies that have happened for our business partners, not having to drive to meet, those sort of things made it really easy for business partners to jump on a call. We're seeing more and more folks from outside the state that are willing to mentor, like, hey, I have a friend in Seattle that, would be perfect for this. Let me connect to you. And so our network has expanded quite a bit that are interested in supporting in that way. The interesting thing is now we're starting to build a lot of our larger group speakers that we would normally bring in for student professional development are willing to let us record for future and just kind of build that resource library for our students learning for later on. And I would say one other thing that has happened, it's not just a health pandemic that we're in, but we've had some diversity conversations. We've had some environmental conversations. We've had some political conversations that are happening. And so learning to work through some of those, but seeing the passion behind those with our students and how very much engaged they are. There's a lot more of, I'd say, for example, in our business startup class, just different types of passion areas that have emerged. Not that those things weren't there, but they're very much at the forefront now. And seeing the collaboration that they're having and the great ideas that they're having and knowing the people that they want to connect with, that has changed a lot. And so that's been really interesting. So some of our projects, the mentors that we're striving to connect with, and then just some of the entrepreneurial creations that they're coming up with is just really outstanding, I think. It's just pushed all of our thinking, business partners, students, and instructors combined. And just, I think that's fabulous that we're all kind of pushing towards a better world in general. So I would think those are the things I could add to what Jill's already mentioned.
Just the kind of inspiration we all need right about now. Thank you very much. Marc, here we are, Halloween approaching, scary time, but you've managed to maintain and maybe even improve your school business partnership this fall?
Yeah, again, we not a lot changed for us in some respects, right? As far as how we did business day to day. We do continue to court some businesses. We have new initiatives in our pool that were not there last spring, including some new business partners that are ready to jump on. So everybody's kind of adapting. I will echo again, Michelle and Jill both pointing out there were a lot of positives to this. Just that idea, right, that I don't have to think about just people that are within driving distance of me as resource people now, right? That wasn't a mindset before. Other than that, he got caught. I just kind of swivels back a little bit to the during COVID or early COVID question, but we couple districts got caught without a chance to do our pitch either. So our numbers are slightly down in a couple of the districts. Well, actually all 3 districts this year, but some of that was just due to, we didn't get our chance to give a pitch really. So I think things will recover nicely once we get hopefully back to a new normal, I guess.
New normal indeed. Well, Mike, you mentioned that there's been a retraction and now an expansion toward Turkey Valley. Put that in the context of maintenance and improvement of the school business partnership you've pioneered.
Well, I had to, and I think Marc smiled a little bit too when Jill said, they only have 2,000 students, so where do they draw from? And so former Turkey Valley graduate and going from being a 3A school when I was way young, a lot of years ago, to 8-man football now. The advantage is Future Ready Iowa, the clearinghouse. Mrs. J and the students there, I think, have latched on to 2 of the initiatives that are through Future Ready with Ruan and I think Central, maybe Pella College. And so kind of as everybody's alluded to, we didn't have our hackathon in the spring. We didn't have our partner palooza. And so that's really pushed our initiative pool to go passion-based, which again, when we started with Iowa Big, that was kind of at the forefront. And so our students have really thought about who are those business partners. And I kind of mentioned that we moved into a new space this fall. We're in a co-working space now, a new co-working space, and we're right on Main Street. And so just the foot traffic that we have, having a new storefront and being so accessible to the chamber, economic development has been phenomenal. And so as we continue to furnish it appropriately and get what we need, we only see that growing. And so, and again, with Turkey Valley there, we've always had that just from our makeup of schools that have been involved. So, and again, I want to mention the NICC partnership. We have Holly O'Brien in our space once a week, and that's how they're supporting us. So the conversations that go on range from anywhere from I'm thinking about becoming a doctor to I think I want to be a truck driver. And so having Holly here really enables them to have those conversations and kind of get a clear path. So
you're graciously touching a lot of bases, Mike. Thank you. None of us got here on our own. Laurie, here we are in the fall. You've adapted beautifully down there at Workplace Learning Connection. How so?
Well, when I thought about your question, Jeff, I was thinking about, probably the big thing is that we didn't want to derecho it, okay? We didn't want to go blowing in with a lot of our partners or school, on the school or business side and really, drive it too hard. I think it was really, really important to offer or think about, first listen, and offer options and ease of implementation or participation, especially from a business side. Because we not only had businesses that have been out of commission for a while, But then they got nailed by the derecho. Like everybody knows Cedar Rapids got nailed pretty bad, as well as Vinton and Marengo and a lot of our smaller communities. So I think, again, being really adaptive in our approach and experimental, and to get a lot of feedback. Because at this point now, at least we're able to talk to people about what we're thinking about and getting input from educators and from our business partners. And then we started kind of communicating out some of that plan and sharing out some of the successes. But early on in the process, we knew that we weren't going to be able to get volunteers into our schools. So we developed a virtual career speaker series, a library. Would really encourage you to go and look at our website, kirkwood.edu /workplace learning connection. Check out our educator resources. We've got 76 local career speakers in all pathways, basically talking about not only the work that they do, but the skill sets and especially perseverance, how they're getting through some of these times. We really asked them to emphasize some of those essential skills that they utilize within their work. Dove in deep to exploring models that can work easily. So we had a couple of team members that were very adept at technology and developed some really easy plug and play strategies using Google Expeditions and giving some of those tools to our partners so that they could offer and develop worksite tours. The Advancing the Future tours that we normally have over 1,000 kids participate in would have been this month. We had to move to an online format. We did that successfully using some of those tools and the great work of our partners. We moved to literally dozens of virtual group job shadow days. And again, we needed to offer opportunities for parents and students and educators that were comfortable with on-site. And it looks a lot different in Cedar Rapids and Iowa City than it does maybe in some of the rural areas. So we needed to offer a lot of options. And it was really interesting. We closed our portal last week, and it was significant, the number of individuals that chose those virtual days. And there's a lot of good things about that when it comes to equity and access, because transportation is always a challenge for a lot of our students. We created a virtual planning for your future, a career fair model. And we did that in conjunction in advertising the Golden Circle, ICANN's Golden Circle. So that checked a lot of boxes for our school partners that were really looking for that activity to meet their plans around career and academic planning. So that proved to be a very popular asset. We're planning right now Virtual STEAM Institute that normally serves 5,000 plus students in the month of November and December. And we're moving that to a live and a blended opportunity. And knowing that a lot of our instructors are teaching on Zoom, we had to figure out how to simulcast onto our YouTube channel. So I want to encourage you to check out our YouTube channel too, Workplace Learning Connection. And then our internship team ran into some major hurdles, especially in education and healthcare, getting kids out there in those environments, and have developed a really innovative model in the virtual micro internship, which includes some career development skill badges. So they've developed content, have it on our Talent platform at Kirkwood, and students will be able to, it's not a credit course, but they will have that on their non-credit Kirkwood transcript. And they're covering professionalism, social awareness, communication, critical thinking, and collaboration. In addition to that, so that's what we're doing locally. As a state partner, we've developed some really great collaborations through the Iowa Intermediary Network. So I would encourage you to go to iowain.org and check out live events. So intermediaries across the state have developed live events that will be recorded that'll be especially beneficial to our educators in career and technical education because they are standard aligned. So I'll shut up now.
That's a lot to digest, but thank you for the web link, Laurie, and nice work. So I'm going to ask you one last question, a crystal ball question, but before I do, I'm not entirely sure whether Iowa Ideas posts your contact information, but I want to mention to all the audience members that if you want to get in touch with anybody here, you could always email info@iowastem.gov and we'll get you connected to them. If you guys get a chance, share your contact info if you want to. Otherwise, info@iowastem.gov. This last question, I'm going to have to ask you to limit yourself to 30 seconds or so, and starting with Laurie, ending with Jill. So if anybody cheats, you're going to cut off Jill. The question is this: go a year out, go a decade out. Where do you want to see your school business partnership next year or in 2030? Laurie?
I think we're going to keep what we're doing because it has absolutely changed access and equity. And we're very focused on that at Workplace this year around issues around equity and being more inclusive and having more diversity in our partnerships. And I know everything that we're doing right now, I honestly think there's no reason to not keep it moving forward. And expansion, probably in more project-based learning supports for our educators, probably doing more for our classroom educators. That's where I see the future of our work.
Yeah, well said. All right, let's go to Iowa Big North. The year 2030, Mike, what's it like?
I think work-based learning right now, we're currently in 11th and 12th grade. I'd love to see that go low, considerably lower. Transportation is the barrier right now as we think about that. So we're going to figure that out and we're going to expand those opportunities.
Transportation and deeper into the school years. Thank you. How about you, Marc?
I would kind of echo exactly what Mike said. I mean, we already have an 8th grade model. We'd like to, at Okoboji, we'd like to kind of eventually fill that gap in between 8th grade and 11th and 12th. I'd like to see, for us personally, again, we're in an even smaller situation, well, Grettinger Terrell is than Mike, that we expand the kinds of workplace opportunities that we can offer kids, and maybe even the distance away that our our business partners might be from us physically.
Excellent. Expand the menu, expand the hosts and partners. Michelle, Waukee Apex in 2030.
Yeah, I would say similarly. I think we'll keep the online flexibility piece for sure to support as many students as we can. I would love to see us grow nationally and internationally with our business connections. And I think one of the things that our teachers have really loved is a piece of this was put in place that made them really think outside of their norm, and they've enjoyed that creativity. So continuing the innovation, whatever that looks like for content or delivery or product or the types of content, whether that's environmental or whatever. And then I think one of the great things that came out of the last 6 months or so is that we've really done a lot of inward thinking, just social, emotional, and that balance, making sure that, we're working hard, but we're playing hard and taking time for ourselves and looking after each other. Not that we didn't do that before, but it's definitely been a focus and we want to keep that.
Thank you so much. Last word, Jill.
All right. I probably echo a lot of what our friends here have said, but I think district-wide, we are really looking at that. I talk about our set of 6 core skills for EDGE and looking at those more from a district lens and kind of revisiting those this school year. Now's a good time to revisit your foundation, and I foresee us doing that, kind of resetting that, and perhaps highlighting some different skills that maybe we didn't see rise to the top before. And also, given this climate right now, I feel like we've always tried in EDGE to put an emphasis on post-secondary readiness, that it's about whatever your next path is and making sure you're ready for that. And I think we want to continue to put that emphasis more than ever on post-secondary readiness, and knowing that kids just need to know there's a variety of options and pathways for them after high school that may involve college. It may involve a number of different post-secondary trainings through military or apprenticeships, but just highlighting all those options that are out there for our students. And I think that that's kind of been illuminated now and will continue to be. I also think we've seen stronger connections to some of our core classes, and a hope and a goal will be that continues with this work, so that our core traditional academics really feel that connection to work-based learning.
Right on. You are inspiring trailblazers. Thank you on behalf of a silent, but I'm sure applauding vigorously audience.